Okay, now you can't see me. Okay, now is either the camera's off. Okay. Voila! Now I'm here. All right. I hope I hope I hope you all have gotten the link. My apologies. I didn't realize I was on Chrome, and I only do Hangouts from Firefox, and I totally forgot. I was in Chrome doing something earlier today, and I didn't switch over, so I apologize. And for some reason, I couldn't get the microphone to work in Chrome, so now I am back. So hey, I guess I have to explain everything all over again. And so that is what I'll do. But before I get started, I am going to do one thing. You know what? I'm just going to pause that. So let's get started. So I'm going to start back from the beginning. Basically, okay, so I got some viewers coming up. So that means that the link has been, okay, so the link is working. I see the green dots flushing across, so I know I have sound. So I'm going to start back from the beginning. I said a mouthful. So my name is Brown-Phillips. For some of you who don't know, I have a group of individuals who are familiar with me. They've either bought my book or they've came across me online, and so they have an idea of who I am. And so and then I have a new group of people who may be coming on live tonight, and they may be new to me and my story. So I'm going to go over everything that I said, because I did say a lot and I was about to jump right into the content. So thanks a lot for letting me know that there was no sound. My name is Brown-Phillips, and I am an Amazon's best-selling author of Jumpstart Your Credit, How to Settle and Negotiate Your Debts in 10 Steps. And as you can see, I have a little placeholder here in the book, because I'm going to be referencing this tonight. And so I apologize if I am pausing, because I've said so much before, so I'm trying to, rehash everything that I've said. But I know you may be wondering, okay, Lorelia, what is different from you as opposed to the other individuals who have wrote books in this space of credit, rebuilding, credit repair? And I like to say that, my expertise is different in terms of I really focus on a very specific area of the personal credit niche, and that is how to either get rid of debt collectors, how to eliminate them, how to get them out of your life. And so I give it a different spin. A lot of the information that I share in my book or my content online is very different than most experts out there. There's only a few of us who really, kind of talk about this. Most people talk about, other areas of credit repair, and there's nothing wrong. But I wrote this book, and I'm going to share with you tonight. It was based on my experience. And so, a lot of people ask me, well, how and why did you decide to talk about this personal credit, I would say, space only in one area? And I always tell people, because it's based on my experience. So everything that I'm going to share with you tonight is not something that I just found online and I'm just going to say, oh, let me see if this works, I'm going to share with these with people. No, this is information that I have actually either used myself, which I definitely have, or either I've shared these strategies with clients that I currently work with, or who I've worked with in the past. So everything that I'm going to share with you tonight, I know it works because I have did it. Like I said, it's not nothing that I'm, just kind of figuring out, okay, how does it, work, and how does it relate to my situation or your situation. And so if you see me looking to the side, is because I do have a notebook here. I'm going to be referring to some notes that I have, and then I'm going to try to remember where I left off before. But I'm going to just jump right in. So let me share with you, tonight's webinar is not going to be that long. It's only going to be about 30 or 40 minutes. But I promise you that the information that I share with you tonight is going to be very different than what you've heard. Many of you who are familiar with me and familiar with my story, my content, you know that I talk a lot about debt collectors. But I decided to put this webinar on because I have those group of people who have said, okay, Lorelia, I understand what you're talking about with eliminating debt collectors, getting rid of debt collectors, but now how does it work in terms of me rebuilding my credit? And so I want to stress this to you tonight. There is going to be some information that I'm going to share with you that, is going to be outside of the box of what you've heard. And I want to, can't stress this enough. You're going to hear me say it a lot tonight. I'm going to put this disclaimer out there. By no means am I trying to influence you to not pay your debts. If you feel like in your heart of hearts that those debts are yours and you want to pay them, by all means, you pay them. But I'm speaking to the individual who has said, you know what, Lorelia, I've now taken your information in terms of getting rid of debt collectors. And let me just stop right there. Many of the people who come across the information that I have are similar to me. When I was on my journey of rebuilding my credit, I just wanted to kill the noise. I was not really concerned with increasing my credit score. That came in time, and I'm going to talk about that tonight. But what I really wanted to do was, how can I get these darn debt collectors to just stop calling me, to stop harassing me, and stop calling my job? That's all I wanted. I just wanted peace of mind. So most of the people that, that have came across my information, they're just like that. They just want to kill the noise. But then as you begin to put these strategies in place, like myself, you now get to the next step where you're like, okay, Lorelia, I've killed the noise. I've gotten rid of the debt collectors. Now I'm ready to rebuild my credit. Now, how does that work? And that is what I'm going to talk to you about tonight as well. Before I go into that, I'm going to share my story with you. When I was on my journey of rebuilding my credit, and I don't mean to be long-winded, but I have to take you to a place of where I was, because I don't want to speak from a place of, I wrote a book and I'm an expert and I'm just going to tell you what to do. I'm going to speak from a place of me being just like you. And when I was just like you, I was in my 20s. It was in the year of 2000. I was single, had no kids, was not married. And I had a pretty good income for someone who, like I said, single, no kids. I worked in New York City, prestigious accounting firm, made over $50,000 a year. That's darn good for someone who's in their 20s. But I'm gonna share a secret with you. My credit sucked. And so I took the responsibility to say, you know what, I'm gonna do something about it, because I had the income, but my credit sucks. And so we all know that we live in a nation where credit rules. And so I needed some economic power, in terms of with my credit. So I went on that journey and I started educating myself and I started reading books. And by no means this is not to talk against some of the books that I read, but a lot of the books out there told me to do the strategy that does not work. And so that's why I said the information I'm going to share with you is very controversial. That strategy is call up your creditors and pay your debts. So here I am, this 20-something-year-old woman. I had the income. It was slow at the tax firm that I was working for. It was in the summer. And I did that. Got my credit report, looked at all the derogatory information, and I said, okay, let me call up these creditors and make some type of agreement and pay them off. not knowing the difference between a debt collector and an original creditor. I'm going to briefly talk about that tonight. So what did I do? I paid a lot of debts, and I thought I had made some traction. And so, lo and behold, maybe about 6 months later, started making some major purchases. I wanted to buy a car. Lo and behold, my credit still sucked. So I said, let me understand this. 6 months ago, I got my credit report. I contacted creditors, had all my documentation, my letters, I had everything in a uniform manner, in terms of, who I paid off, what we settled on, the whole nine. But my credit still sucked. So the reason why I share that story with you, because the strategy of contact your creditors, set up some type of payment arrangement to pay them, will not increase your credit score. The only thing that you will get is you pay off some debts. And that's why I said I am going to put out this disclaimer that you're going to hear me say many times tonight. By no means am I trying to advocate for you to not pay your debts. If you feel like in your heart of hearts that those are your debts and you want to pay them off, by all means you pay them. But you have to make the decision on what you want to do. Is your goal to pay debts? Because some people, I understand, they sign their John Hancocks on something and they want to pay it off. I totally get it. My mother subscribed to that, school of thought. Hey, you signed your John Hancocks on something, you pay it off. Get it. I totally get it. So that's why I said I put that disclaimer out there. But then there are certain people that they want to rebuild their credit. And so the information I'm sharing with you tonight, I want to say it's oxymoronic. Because there's a specific strategy that you have to do if you really want to do that. Because you can pay off debts and rebuild your credit, but you have to know the strategy on how to do it. I'm going to share with you tonight. So I will say this. After doing all that, I was still in the same boat. And what boat was that? I still had bad credit. So I had to do some further research. That is when I started to come across information I'm going to share with you tonight. And so I'm going to go right into it. So why should you listen to me? I shared with you why. I've wrote a book on the topic. I've had experience in it, and now I'm going to share with you how I got out of it. So before I get started, I'm just going to share this with you because I know I have sound because the thing is going back and forth. But I'm also going to share my screen with you. So you're not going to see me. So all you're going to do is see the screen, and you're going to hear my voice. So before I do that, I want to give you some preparation on the information that I just shared with you. So you may be saying to yourself, okay, Lorelia, so you mean to tell me that if I get my credit report and I start deciding to contact these creditors and make some agreement with what I decide to pay based on what they say is good, that it may not have no impact on my credit score? And so I'm here to tell you yes, because there's a certain way you have to do it. And I'm gonna say this much. If you're talking to a creditor, and 9 times out of 10, and I'm going to talk about that, most derogatory information on your credit report is charged off information. And charged off information means that it is now in the hands of a debt collector. The original creditor, you may be wondering, okay, Lorraine, what is the original creditor? The original creditor is the person that you signed the contractual agreement with. That could have been with Visa, American Express, store card, gas card, you name it. Now, excluding, the information that I'm excluding is not regarding student loans or child support or any type of secured asset meaning excluding automobiles. But I mean, when I say secured assets, I mean a house. So all the information I'm going to talk to you is about credit cards, or it could be auto loan debt, it could be, you know, medical debt, but it does not include student loans and the other information that I just said. So what happens is that the derogatory information that you see that is normally on a person's credit report is information that has been put on your credit report by a debt collector. And so that is the reason why I decided to do this webinar tonight, is because we're going to the end of the year. And what that means is that debt collectors are on, they're on the prowl, because one, they are looking to close out the year, and they would like to get a few of those accounts off their books. So in the next month or two, you're going to see, if you have some derogatory information on your credit report, you're going to get some offers in the mail, you know, saying, hey, you know, you owed $1,500 and we're willing to settle, for, you know, with you for, like, I'm just going to throw a number out there, for $600. And so you want to be very cautious on you doing, making any type of agreement to pay anything, because you will find yourself in the same situation as me. You will have paid a debt, but it will have no impact on your score. And you may be wondering, okay, Loretta, well, why won't it have any impact on my score? It's because in order to have information that's derogatory like that, to have an impact on your credit score, the whole trade line has to be deleted. It has to be taken off your credit report. If you get into some type of agreement with a creditor, and it being a debt collector, because, you know, 90% of the time it's not the original creditor. The only time that is the case is if your debts are current, or you may be past due. But once you are in the charged off status and they've sold your account, that becomes a whole different ball game. And those are the debts that I'm talking about to you tonight. So what happens is that you will get into some type of agreement where you will decide to pay the debt. But what happens is that only thing they're going to put on your credit report is paid as agreed, paid based on however they want to word it. It's not going to help your credit report. It's not going to help your credit score. So that's why, you know, I always tell people that you have to be very cautious with how you decide on settling those debts. Now, if you do want to settle, the best thing to get, and it's very hard to get from a debt collector, they're not giving those away. Whereas you two decide to agree on an amount and they say they're going to take the trade line off of your report. Now, if they say they're going to do it, 9 times out of 10, they're not. Best thing that you can do is get something in writing, and you can use that as leverage to contact the credit bureaus to say, hey, I went into agreement with this debt collector and have this item removed off your report. But those are very hard to get. And I tell you right now, debt collectors are not giving those out. So I know you're wondering at this point. Now I'm about to share my screen. Well, Loretta, where are you getting this information? So let me stress with you, this is not information that I've made up. This is actual, this is government information that any person, you or I, any consumer can basically find for themselves and leverage the laws to help them to rebuild their credit. And so the information I'm going to share with you when I share my screen with you is you're going to see some information on the FCRA, which is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Those, and you know, once again, like I told you, I'm going to reference in my book. In my book on chapter 4, I basically talk about the FCRA and the FDCPA. Now, I'm going to get to FDCPA in a minute, but I just want to talk about the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Now, this is a law that provides information on how things are reported on your credit report. So a furnisher, being a credit bureau, they have an obligation to you as a consumer to only report things that are correct, and credible. So that is why I said tonight I'm going to share with you how you're going to be able to leverage the debt validation letter to help you. Now, you're also going to see me talk about the FDCPA. Now, that's the Fair Debt Collection Practices Act. That has to do with the debt collectors. And so those are the individuals that a lot of times that you will see who are harassing you. And I take that back with seeing you, because a lot of times you don't see them, you just hear them. So those are the individuals who are harassing you. Those are the people that, like I said, you just kind of want to kill the noise. And a lot of times those are the ones who are ruining your credit, because what happens is that although, the account may have gotten charged off by the original creditor, remember that was the person that you signed the contractual agreement with, such as it could be a store card, a Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, what have you. Once that gets charged off and it's sold to a debt collector, that debt collector is still reporting all that information. And so I'm going to touch on that later, but if you have no, and I don't want to jump ahead, but if a debt collector has not legally shown you the contractual agreement that you have with that company or person, they cannot report information on your credit report. So now I am going to go over to my screen, and I am going to hope that you all see me, but this should work good. So right now in front of you, you see that I have on the screen the FCRA and the FDCPA. These are going to be the two very important parties that are going to be part of your journey as you try to leverage a lot of these strategies that I'm going to share with you. Now, the first one that I'm going to talk about to you is the FCRA. And that is the Fair Credit Reporting Act. Now, like I said, those are the individuals that provide the law and statutes on how information should be reported on your credit report. And so the FCRA, it has pretty much about 29 statutes, and they cover so many areas. But the most important area that they talk about and that you're going to leverage is going to be the code section 623. Now, I don't want to get too, wordy on code sections, but the reason why I go through all this with you is to share with you that I'm not just pulling this information, out of my hat, because like I said, a lot of the information that I'm going to share with you tonight is not widely talked about, it's not widely used. And so going back to what I said, the FCRA really, and at least with code, because remember I said it's 29 code statutes, but they primarily the one that is going to help you when it comes to contacting the credit reporting agencies or bureaus, whatever. And now those three bureaus is TransUnion, because I'm not going to assume that people know. So the three credit bureaus are TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. So like I said, as the law to you as a consumer, they have the right to as you can see on the screen, they have to report accurate information, and they have to prohibit from reporting inaccurate information onto your credit report, as well as they have a duty to correct any information to the consumer. So what I'm going to go, now this I want to stress, and I'm going to come back to the screen again so you all can see me. Okay, so now this is a very important piece, because what happens is, and I've seen it so many times, many consumers feel like the credit bureaus are their friends. So what happens is that when you as a consumer get to the point, whereas, because you can know all these acronyms, but if you don't know how to leverage it to help you in terms of increasing your credit score, all you really have is you just know a whole bunch of acronyms, and you just know a whole bunch of information. And so, like I said, there are people that I know that who are on my list and who have contacted me, and so they're finding out all this information, but they don't know the next step. And so the one thing that I want to share with you, and it's particularly with this statute, with the FCRA, it has to do with the credit bureaus. The credit bureaus are not your friends. and you know, and I can't stress this enough. The credit bureaus are in the business of you having bad credit. And you know, and I'm going to share this with you. And by no means am I calling anyone ignorant, but I will say this. Financial ignorance is a billion-dollar industry. If you do not take the responsibility to learn this information I share with you and leverage it to help you, then you are just going to be like the rest of the other individuals who have bad credit. They have no economic power, and all you do is just go blaming people. So what does that have to do with the credit bureaus? The credit bureaus are not in the business of making sure you have good credit. And so I say this because they sell your information. And it's not widely talked about, but it's true. If you ever notice in the mail, you get these offers for credit cards, buy a new car. Oh, how does dealership down the street from me or 2 miles away from me, how do they know that, you know, how do they know to contact you or contact me? The way they know is they buy this information from the credit bureaus. And so, and the credit bureaus are, and especially for those who are business owners that I have on on the webinar tonight, they sell information based on the consumer's financial behavior. And like I said, with financial ignorance being a billion-dollar industry, creditors know that everything that you do is behavior. And so the likelihood of you getting in debt, you may even be lucky enough to get out of debt, it's a good chance you're going to get in debt again. And so they know this. And so you as a consumer have to be very diligent and very forceful with how you correspond with the credit bureaus. So many times I have clients of mine who say, well, the credit bureaus came to me and they said this information is accurate, so that's that. It's just not that simple. You have to leverage that law, because if not, they're always going to be telling you that the information is correct. They're not in the business. And let me share this, because a lot of people think this. The 3 bureaus that I just mentioned, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, they are not governmental agencies. That's another misconception. So a lot of consumers think that what they say is correct, and so they go along with it. So they live with the fact of having bad credit. Because if any of you, and I know a few people who are on my list, you all have attempted to rebuild your credit yourself. And a lot of you all have come across stumbling blocks where the credit bureaus are saying this, and you're not getting any type of solution to your problem. And that is what I'm going to share with you tonight. That is what this statute is about. Is that you have, now remember, like I said, if you're still unclear with it, I clearly go over it with my book in my book. And there you can learn, like I said, you can really understand really how the FCRA works, how you're going to use it to the best of your ability to be able to leverage it to help you rebuild your credit. So now I'm going to go back to the screen again. So I talked about the FCRA, and I talked about section code 623. This has to do with accuracy. It talks about inaccurate information, and it talks about your duty as a consumer. Now, the next part I'm going to talk about is the FDCPA. Now this is the part where many of you have said, okay, Lorelia, I understand this part in terms of getting rid of a debt collector. And so for those, like I said, who may be new to my content, I'm not going to spend a lot of time with this subject. But basically, what this means is that there is, once again, governmental statutes on how debt collectors are supposed to communicate with you as a consumer. So as I mentioned to you earlier about many of you just want to kill the noise, this is the federal statute that is going to help you to get rid of those debt collectors. Once again, in my book, same chapter, in chapter 4, yep, I go into the FDCPA, the FCRA, and the 2000 Credit Card Act. And so this is to get rid of the debt collectors. And like I said, many of you all, and I'm going to sum it all together because I know a lot of you are saying that, well, how is this going to help me? But now, remember when I said the title of this webinar is how to increase your score with the debt validation method. The debt validation method comes from this law. So I'm going to get there. Let me go there. So once again, the FDCPA, they also have a whole bunch of statutes that cover the law. They have pretty much about 19, but the most important ones that you as a consumer want to leverage is Code Statute 805 that has to do with communication in connection with the debt collector, 806 that has to do with harassment and abuse, and then 809 validation of the debt. Now, many of you may be wondering, okay, or some of you all may know, okay, what is the validation of the debt? I'm just going to kind of move fast through this because we're already at 10 o'clock. The validation of the debt is pretty much, and you're looking at it on the screen, so I'll have you to kind of read it for yourself. But if you notice, it says a consumer should always dispute the validity of all debts, whether or not you do owe them or not. Debt collectors are supposed to provide consumers within 5 days after the initial communication a letter, written notice stating the amount, the name of the creditor to whom is owed, the statement that the consumer has the right to know the validity of the debt. If you go down here, once a collection company receives a letter of debt validation from the consumer, all collection activities must cease until verification has been given to the consumer. A proper form of validation of debt is the name of the original creditor, along with the original contract that you signed to receive that credit card. Now that was very powerful that I shared with you, because now if you're wondering about, okay, Loretta, you said a lot tonight, but I'm still not understanding how debt validation is going to help me. The information that I just read to you, that you just saw on the screen, pretty much sums it up. You have your credit report in front of you. Some of you all may already have it, because like I said, many of you are already familiar with who I am. You've already sent me your questions. So you have your credit report in front of you. You got all this information. You notice some of the information is derogatory. You also notice that most of the derogatory information is from a debt collector. What do? Now, if you're not taking notes tonight, this is the part where you better be taking notes. If I know that I'm looking at my credit report and I have ABC debt collector on my report, what I'm not going to do is call ABC debt collector and say, hey, I got this debt on my credit report, and what should I, can we work out something to pay this debt off? Now, let me just put the disclaimer out there, because I see the numbers have went up with the views. So some of you all may have not heard me say this tonight. By all means, I am not trying to influence any of you all to not pay your debts. If you believe in your heart of hearts that you want to pay your debts, by all means, you do it. Strategy that I'm going to share with you tonight has to do with how you're going to increase your credit score using debt validation. Now, I shared with you earlier, you contacting ABC debt collector, you two agreeing on, okay, $500, you pay $500. All you did was pay a debt. That's all you want to do, then that's fine. But if you really want to increase your credit score, you paying that debt is not going to help you. You got to get the trade line deleted. How are you going to do that? Now, I did tell you that you possibly can work something out with the debt collector, whereas you all agree on an amount you're going to pay, and then, they can provide you with some documentation. Because don't believe the lie where they're going to tell you, oh, we're going to go to the credit bureaus on your behalf and we're going to delete it from your credit report. It's not going to happen. The best thing you can do is get something in writing. Get something in writing that says that, it must be deleted from your credit report. Then that'll help you. And it now remind you that's very hard to get. Most of them will say, well, we'll update your credit report to have paid or paid as agreed, and that is not going to help you. This is what a smart person is going to do, one that is going to leverage the debt validation strategy, one that is going to leverage, the FCRA, because they know that smart consumer knows that the FCRA has the authority to report correct information on their credit report. That smart consumer, that well-informed consumer, also know the FDCPA, that they know that that's the debt collector. They know that they have a right to have the validity of the debt presented to them. So that smart consumer, what they're going to do is they're going to go to that, they're going to look at that credit report, they're going to see ABC debt validated, debt collectors owe the debt. And what they're going to do, not going to call, they're going to send a letter. Now, normally what happens, because I told you what time of the year it is, debt collectors are looking to close out. They're looking is that you can get an offer in the mail from a debt collector, and that item may not even be on your credit report. Let me share with you an example. There is something called a statute of limitations. Oh, hello, hello. Okay, so I'm back. Now I got sound. All right. Thanks for sitting, waiting for me patiently. So give me a minute to let me just put my thoughts together for what I left off with. So, like I said, in the state of New Jersey, a debt collector has 6 years to pay the debt. Now, if I get a random offer in the mail and, you know what, let me just add something here. If I just get an offer in the mail from a debt collector who is telling me that they're looking to settle a debt, and I have not even examined the information, I may not even know where the debt is coming from. What happens is that I could really put myself in a jam. And the reason why I could put myself really in a jam or in a bad spot is because, let me give you an example. And like I said, everything that I talk about is based on experience. When I was 17, I signed a contractual agreement with, one of these fitness centers. And I'll say the name because they're not even around no more. And so what happens is I didn't have no job. I'm in college. I didn't understand what I was doing. Had no understanding of contractual agreements and, signing my name on things. So what happened was I defaulted on the debt. I stopped going to the gym. Well, lo and behold, they harassed me for years. And I never forget the first harassment I got from them. My mother sent my mail down to me. I was going away for college. And I called them up because I called myself, feeling like I'm an adult now. I'm in college. And they scared half to death. Like, oh my God, Mom, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? These people are there telling they're going to do this to me. They're going to do that to me. Well, lo and behold, my mother shared with me what to do. And because you don't have nothing, I mean, I didn't even have I'll be on account. So there was nothing that they need in terms, trying to sue me. But what I will say, 1991, we're in 2015. Do you know that debt still to this day resurfaces? And I mean, pretty much, they may say for $40. Did not have the knowledge of understanding about how this all works. And I paid that debt off. We can now information to the credit bureaus, which is the furnisher, the FCRA, and now start reporting it on my credit report. Do you understand how powerful that is? Do you understand why it's so important to understand how these two laws will help you? Because you as the consumer, and this is what I always tell people, going back to what I said, if you haven't paid any attention to me this whole night, this is the time to pay attention. If you have your credit report in front of you and you know that majority on there is from a debt collector, you should be validating the debt before you even get into any type of agreement on what you're going to settle. Because remember, the Section 9 CPA, which talks about validity of the debts, says a right to know for them to provide you with a contract for a long time. I have yet to see that. I've yet to see it. Because this is what I know. Most debt collectors are part of a pool of should I say, most debt collecting amounts are part of a pool of purchased debt that is purchased by. So what does that mean? That means that a debt buyer buys all this debt. Do you think they spending time trying to figure out, okay, well, let me get the original contract and this, that, and the other? That's why I said in the beginning, certain debts that that I'm excluding from this. And I went into the debts that I am referring to. So you have your credit report. That is the first thing that you need to be doing, is validating the debts. And so for all of you all that are saying, okay, I did that, but now if they the debt, then information should be removed off your credit report. It's pretty much, it's really that simple. So we're already at the 10 o'clock hour. I didn't plan on going this late because I know there was some technical difficulties, and I understand that I'm so patient. I'm glad that you all were patient enough from me. But I just want to sum it all with this. I hope you understand why you need to leverage, the laws of the FCRA, the laws of the FDCPA. And if you're wondering, okay, how does this help me to increase my credit score, is the biggest piece, which I ended tonight, is debt validation. That is the first thing is you as a consumer need to be doing. You need to be validating those debts before you even get to any type of agreement with settling. And if those debts aren't validated, you as a consumer should be going to the credit reporting agencies and having them to remove the information off your credit report. And so that is why I said, in order for your score to increase, you have to have the trade line removed. And that is how you have the trade line to be removed. Now, unfortunately, I'm not taking any questions. I don't even think I have comments, what have you. But I will be saying this, and in the next 4 weeks, I am going, and I know I covered a lot tonight, and your mind may be going through a whirlwind, like, okay, I'm still trying to get all this information together, and you may even be someone, one of those individuals who've sent me your personal emails, and you still need your answers, your questions asked or answered. Let me share this with you, and I also want to cover this tonight. Many of you all send me, and I understand, you're in a situation where you just kind of want that one answer. And unfortunately, it's unfair for me to just give you one answer without seeing the whole picture. And so for any of you all that have sent me the questions and kind of just to give you that in one answer, and I don't want to give you the wrong information without seeing the whole picture. And I like to use the analogy of a doctor. If you went to the doctor and you said, okay, doc, my belly hurts, the doctor's not going to just write you up, they're going to say they have to examine you. And that's the same thing I'm saying to you. I need to examine your whole picture in order for me to just give you an answer. And that helps these webinars. I do the calls that, maybe something that I've shared, answered, be doing, and going to personal, intimate workshop where it's going to be on the computer. I'll make sure all technicalities are going to be ironed out. And you and I are going to have the ability for me to go over some information, but I'm going to do it different. It's going to be more step by step. And it's going to give you the opportunity to now get your credit report out. I'm even going to allow you to send it to me for me to now finally see the full picture. And so with me seeing the full picture, I can now guide you on what it is that I need to tell you to do so you can make the next step. So after tonight, you're going to tell you about this 4-week workshop that I'm going to have that's on the computer, where you're going to have an intimate setting. I don't care if it's one person. I don't care if it's 2 people. More intimate it can be between you and I. And so we will have these sessions where now you get the ability to pick my brain. It is good. You're listening to the calls. You may have even purchased a few of the info products that I've created, but you still need I get your emails. I understand you do need guidance, and that is what I'm here for. So in the next 4 weeks, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get guidance from me. Now, for that person who says, you know what, really, and let me tell you, this is for, because it's two groups of people. It's for and who it's not for. It is not for the person who just wants to sit back and not do anything. You're going to have to put some elbow grease in it. You're going to have to, take responsibility for where you're at. You're going to have to take responsibility for getting your credit reports. You're going to have to take responsibility for you to send information out. If you know that is not you, and you're the type that, hey, could you just do it for me? I have a program for you on that as well. All you have to do is contact me personally at Lori at yourmoneymentor.com. There, get your person who's like, I feel overwhelmed. I think, I'm going to have to be hands off. So going back to who it is for, it's for that person who does want to take responsibility for their situation. They're actively doing things with their credit report. They're trying to get information off. They're a little in information overload with so much stuff that I shared with them tonight, shared with them on other teleseminars. They just want to just help them put the blinders on and focus on one thing. And that could truly change their whole situation and increase their credit score. So, like I said, in the next coming emails, you're going to get some information from me about that. If you decide that you don't want to be I have going on is going to be held possibly 1 or 2 days a week. One day a week may be content, another day of a week may be, Q&A where you have questions, you get to pick my brain, and it's going to be personal and private. It is not going to be for everyone. I will not be doing this on a Google Hangout. You will not see it on YouTube. I will be using a private platform that is pretty much it's used on my computer, so it's just not out there for anyone and everyone to see. So that that's just how private and intimate this is. It is a group setting. It's not one-on-one. And like I said, it's something that I'm looking forward to doing. I know the new year is coming, and many of you are going to get those offers in the mail. Many of you are going to just be like the rest of the millions of Americans who are going to go into the 2016, and you're going to say, you know what? I am looking to get financially free, and this is going to get you started on that path. Don't be one of those individuals who, like I said, I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to call these people myself and work out something. That's what you want to do. That's fine. But if you truly want to, increase your credit score, there's strategy that you have to use. And you have to use strategy the right way. So once again, this is Lorelia. Also, and I didn't share with you, if you have not seen a debt validation letter, I do have it in my book. I have many in the back of the book, but if you go to my website, www.jumpcreditbook.com, you'll see it right down here below. It looks like I'm going to So meantime, if right now is not the time that you want to move forward with going with doing the class or the workshop, you know, you can still, and you know, and maybe so. Once again, this is really good, and I am going to go off and thank you. Okay, bye bye.